Welcome to the Feria TechCast, where we bring you all things science, engineering, technology, and innovation. Today we are joined by two guests, Steven Silverstein and Howard Silverstein. Steven Silverstein is an entrepreneur who started and built a very successful alarm company on Long Island, New York. He is a lifelong sailor and power boater in both New York and Florida who wants to make other boaters' lives easier and more stress-free, while at the same time helping to protect our waters. Howard Silverstein has lived his life in the corporate world in product estimating, design, engineering, and manufacturing. He has helped many companies by helping to create new products and solve problems which they encounter at store level. Both Stephen and Howard firmly believe you are not solving a problem by making a solution which is more complicated than the current one. The best solutions are those which make the lives of those who use it better, safer, less stressful, and which are also environmentally responsible. So, Howard and Stephen, welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Great, and I'm equally excited to have you guys here. So, let's dive in, Steven and Howard. Your partnership is a perfect blend of underwater experience and product engineering. So, take us back to the moment the idea was born. Steven, were you literally on a boat dealing with a fueling mess when you thought there was a better way to, go about this?
I was fueling my boat, and my brother was there, and he saw the struggles that I was having, which everybody has when they're refueling their boat. And what happened is he saw a better solution in his mind, and he looked at it. He looked at the nozzle, he looked at the port, and came up with a simple solution inside his head, and told me that we could fix this. And I didn't believe him, so he sent me some drawings, and we made some drawings. We made some modifications, and we worked out the kinks. And lo and behold, the fueling was not a problem anymore.
Yeah.
Oh, wonderful. So, Howard, from an engineering perspective, what was the single biggest technical challenge in designing a device that had to be both foolproof for boaters and effective at preventing spills? Can you, just walk us generally through the solution you had come up with?
Well, the issue from the beginning was not just solving it for my brother's boat. The issue from the beginning was making something that was universal. And there's more than one size inlet in boats internationally. There's three different sizes. Generally speaking, there's three different sizes. So anything that needed to be designed had to work with all three of those sizes. Stephen is minimizing his role in that initially. When we were standing there in his boat and I was watching what he was going through to get fuel into his boat, and I saw him stressing out, and I started asking him questions, I realized that it's actually a very complex problem. It seems simple, but it's not. There's all these different size inlets. There's different types of nozzles that are involved. The boats, the inlets are in different positions on the boats. They're angled, they're straight, they're angled. So there's all of these things. So Stephen went over all of that with me at the time, and I've been doing this for a very long time, and I can't explain exactly how I know what I know sometimes, but I kind of knew what the answer was. So what I needed to do was conquer the inlet issue, which is the first issue, so make sure that it works in any one of those three inlets. I needed to come up with a solution that was good enough that I could develop a variation of it for both gasoline and diesel, with the idea that in the future there might be, high-speed nozzles and other things that might have to be dealt with. So it had to be flexible enough for that. It had to be something which was easily portable, something easy to use and store. Because of both my brothers and I feeling that things need to be done in an environmentally friendly way, It also needed to be biodegradable. It needed to be, keep the fuel off of the user, not only in the tank, but off the user, as well as being out of the water. So it had all of these different things that needed to be done. And the design for what we began to refer to as the CLiX, because that's the sound that the nozzle makes, came because I realized that the problem wasn't the nozzle. Everybody says it's the problem was the nozzles don't work. The problem wasn't the nozzle at all. The problem was the inlet. The problem was the boat. That was the light that went off in my head and told me this is what I need to do to solve the problem. I needed to make the inlet of the boat have the same engineering specifications to an extent as the inlet of a car, because the nozzles they use for a boat are the same nozzles they use for automobiles. When you put gas in a car, you don't worry that it's going to overflow. Okay, you don't worry about that at all because it shuts off automatically. So looking at the nozzle that they use in an automobile and the whole system for that, which many of your listeners probably are familiar with, it has a Venturi valve in it. It works on vacuum. So I realized that when that device goes into the boat, if I can create that same idea in the boat, that it would work. I did my first drawings. I sent them to Steven. Steven, drew them out in his program. We both went back and forth on it. It took me about 2 weeks to finalize everything. I had 3D prints made, and Steven and I tested them. And the first one did not work, but I brought more than one. And the second one that we tried actually functioned, and it's been working ever since.
Oh, that's really interesting, Howard. So, you have a great philosophy. The best solutions are not more complicated than the problem. So, how did that principle guide your design choices, especially when you were tempted to add more features?
Well, the concept is, as you say, is correct. It's if I solve a problem and I make it more complicated than the problem that I'm solving, people aren't going to use it. So when you solve for something, it needs to be in the simplest, most elegant fashion possible, something that people can use, they don't have to stress over. There is another product in the market which is similar in what it does to the CLiX. However, it requires assembly. It requires different things. It's very, very large. It's actually doesn't really function all that well. And I didn't want to create that same kind of a problem. So the idea is to create one piece, one simple thing that does all of it. And if you can create this one simple thing, then people would be more likely to use it than something that they have to play with and juggle and glue together and do it. So that was the idea. And Stephen also was instrumental in telling me flat out, if it's not easy, they won't use it. So he was the kind of the impetus also to make sure and keep me in check that I didn't design something that was too overly complicated. And if you look at the way that the CLiX is designed, it is exactly that. It is so simplistic that people don't really understand or see the complexity which is actually involved in that very simple device.
Okay, that's fascinating. So, Stephen, with your background in building a successful alarm company, what was the biggest lesson from that experience that you applied to launching CLiX? Was it about customer focus, manufacturing, or something else?
I'm actually a salesperson at heart, and when we got this thing up and running and I saw the
Alexander Silverstein.
value of it, then I realized that I could sell this to everybody on the planet. And that's really the motivation, saying, okay, well, we can help people and I can present this to people and you know, just move ahead on it. The alarm company has really nothing to do with it except for my experience in sales and my love of boating.
Okay, okay, wonderful. So I'm curious about the prototyping process. Howard,
Yeah.
can you describe an early version of CLiX that was a complete failure? And also, what did that failure teach you that led to the final design?
Well, what the initial drawing that I did, I gave to my brother. He sent me back a 3D file. I had that made in a 3D printed version, which was a hard print, and that print couldn't be used for testing, but it was at least it was good enough for me to see that it did what I wanted it to do as far as structure is concerned. Then I had it 3D printed in another material which had about an 80 durometer, which is its ability to it's not hard. It's a little bit soft like a rubber. So we were able to test it. I brought 3 versions of it with me to the test, and each of those 3 had different openings at the bottom. And the reason I brought them was I was not 100% sure that I had completely figured out, what that bottom dimension had to be. So we tried the first one. The first one was a tight-fitting version of the CLiX, and as my father would refer to it, it was a glorious failure. It worked in the fact that it did not allow the gasoline, diesel in this case actually, to leave the inlet. So it worked in that regard. However, it did not click off because what happened was it had actually pressurized the inside, so it didn't function correctly. So there was let's just say that there was a diesel shower, and my brother was the recipient. So we then cleaned up that mess, and I looked at what had happened. I thought about it for a while. I realized what the problem was there on the spot. Took out actually not the second, but the third one, the largest version of the ones that I had brought, because I did them in 16th inch increments. So I took the third one and I tested it in a jerry can, and it worked perfect. It was beautiful. So we then did it in the other inlet in my brother's boat, because his boat has gas tanks on both sides, which is very typical. So we did it in the second inlet on his boat, and it functioned. And that is the whole story about how that whole prototyping process worked.
Okay, that's really insightful on that matter, and it was quite a brilliant response, I'd say. So, for our audience of engineers and product designers, what does the tech stack for a physical product like the CLiX look like? Are we talking about 3D printing, material science, or a specific type of molding process?
Okay, the prototype was done in a TPE prototype. It was TPE material. It is a styrenic with a little bit of rubber in it, and we did it with that. We were able to 3D print it in that material. It was not the material that I eventually ended up using exactly. The material that is in the CLiX is actually custom mixed to our specifications, but we were able to get a 3D print filament, which was a TPE material, which is what I eventually wanted to use anyway. So that's what we were using for the prototyping. When we went to manufacturing, I had an injection mold made. That injection mold uses a TPE material also, which has a biodegradable additive to it, and it also has an anti-static additive in it as well. When you are fueling with gasoline, static is an issue, and static elimination or suppression is very, very important. So the adding of that to the TPE when it is molded is very important for gasoline. But being overly cautious, Steven and I discussed this, that that somebody out there is going to fill up the boat with a diesel CLiX using a gas, and put gasoline in their car or boat. So we decided that we were going to add the anti-static additive to both the diesel and the gasoline versions in an abundance of caution. Safety is the number one concern. Safety is number one. Everything else kind of falls after that. If the product is not safe, then obviously it shouldn't be on the market. Nobody should be using it. So we've done everything we can to make it as safe as possible, even to the point of putting, even though I think it's silly, an arrow molded into each one of the units to tell you which direction you put it into the boat. Not that you can put it in backwards, but it's there anyway just to be safe. Again, it's an abundance of caution.
Oh wow, that's really fantastic. So, Steven, as the boat of the duo. So, what's a common mistake or bad habit you see other boaters doing during refueling that they don't even realize is risky or harmful to the environment?
Well, what people are doing when they're filling up their boats is that they get distracted or that they aren't paying attention to the right things. Normally, when you fill up a boat, you have multiple people doing it. You're calling out to ask how many gallons you've gotten. You're asking the person at the helm who's looking at the gauge how full I am yet, because you don't really know. Um, Boat gauges for fuel are really not accurate at all. And you may be in a situation where the fuel comes up quickly. So if you're not really paying attention, it's harder. Also, if there are a lot of noises and distractions and crying children and screaming women, this could be a problem. So the CLiX makes it so that it takes all these unknowns out and these variables out, so that when you're there filling your boat, you have the best opportunity of having a successful fill without overflowing. And this is really where it comes down to be. That's it in a nutshell.
Yeah, the reason why Steven says that, which is actually amusing, is the when I was there with him and he was asking his wife, this is when we originally came up with the concept, how full is what percentage is the gauge, what percentage is it now? His wife and my wife were busy talking and she wasn't really paying attention. So that was one of the things that made it very stressful because he was yelling up to her, how is the gauge? She wasn't paying attention. She had to yell back. So it eliminates all of that. It's like, to me, we haven't left the dock yet. It's supposed to be a nice, stress-free, relaxing experience being on the water, and we're already all stressed out. So there has to be a solution to this, and here we are today.
Howard,
Yeah.
moving from the corporate world to a startup with your brother must be quite a shift. So, what's one thing what's one thing the corporate world does well that you brought to the development of CLiX, and one thing you were happy to leave behind?
Well, the what I did in the corporate world, I worked in a lot of point of purchase advertising manufacturing. And what it taught me was a tremendous variation in materials and manufacturing methodologies. Everything from dealing with paper products, metal, plastics, acrylics, glass. I mean, you name it, I've worked in all of those materials. So I had a lot of knowledge of materials, specifications, manufacturing techniques, and I also had a stable of vendors that I knew that I could call on to get different things done depending on what we needed. So without having that background, it would have been tremendously difficult. I was able to produce from the first drawings, 3D drawings from the injection molding house. I was able to start actually injection molding product within 8 weeks. So it's all of that stuff. That's what really was the best part of having that background. And that's what it helped me to bring the if I had to say there was one problem with having that background, it's because now doing it for myself, it's not the same, obviously, as doing it for a very large display company. I don't have personally, neither does Steven, the ability to say, you know what, we're going to spend $150,000 on this type of manufacturing toolage, or we're going to do this. So we don't have that. So we needed to build up from the ground up on a shoestring. But again, because I had the background with all of those vendors and the experience in the industry, I was able to call on a lot of people that I knew, and we got a tremendous amount of done in the beginning as people just trying, we would tell them about the product and they would be excited and they would just say, we'll help you with that. We'll do this for you. So it was really a lot of very good thing having that background for us.
All right, That's really insightful. So you guys are tackling an environmental problem with an engineering solution. So beyond the product itself, what has been the most challenging part of getting boaters to change their habits and adopt a new way of doing things? So
Problem that boaters have is that they have habits that are basically um, driven their boating experience for years and years. They don't like to change anything. And then a lot of people don't understand that there's a different way to do things, so that they want to just do it the way they're doing. They only get a few gallons. They're very cautious. They don't want to, they don't want to deal with anything. They don't want to learn anything new. Also, it's very hard to get the word out on anything. It really is. We have a big advertising campaign. We're all over the place. We're in magazines, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram. We're everywhere. And then when I talk to people about it, they say to me, "Really? There's a thing that we can get?" They don't understand. So it's pretty incredible. It's pretty incredible. It's hard to get a product through the mainstream, boaters, and it's just it's an uphill battle. But when people get it, they're very, very happy.
all right, Steven, looking at the future, is CLiX a single perfect product, or is it a platform? And also, are there any other pain points in boating or other industries you are looking to solve with this same simple, effective approach?
We have other products that we've applied for patent pending on at this point. We have provisional patents on other items, and then we're working on them, but we haven't brought them to market yet because we're trying to get our resources behind the CLiX product, because we believe that's the one that's really the most important. We won an international award from IBEX, International Boat Builders Expo, which is an international,
Mm.
it's very coveted. To be able to get that award is a big thing, and that's what we were awarded on for CLiX. So that's where we want to concentrate and focus our efforts. We have other products, but we haven't entered them into the mainstream yet at all.
Okay, that's fascinating. So, coming from entrepreneurship and corporate engineering, what does the word innovation truly mean when it's applied to a simple physical product like CLiX? I mean, also, what does the word innovation generally mean to you?
Okay, basically my opinion is innovation is any change in an existing product, technique, methodology, could be any number of different things, any discipline even, that varies from the existing process or technique and improves it in some way. It could be very minor, it could be very small, it could be tremendous. The CLiX specifically is innovative for a number of reasons. Not only does it solve the problem that they've been trying to solve for as long as there's been boats in the water that use gas or diesel, but it also does it in a very elegant, simple, and easy way, which a lot of the solutions, a lot of the innovations that are made don't do. They innovate, but they don't actually simplify. So to me, the best part of any innovation is the simplicity and the elegance of that. That's what makes it, whether it's a really astounding innovation or not. The CLiX unit was actually won the Innovation Award from the International Boat Expo in 2024 for that specific reason. Again, I'll keep using the word, but the elegance of it, the simplicity of it, is what made it so incredibly innovative. Not even necessarily as much what it did, but how it did it.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful. That's really, really brilliant and interesting response from you. So, finally, our listeners who are boaters, engineers, or just love a good innovation story, what is the best place for them to go learn more or see the product and support your mission?
Steven?
That would be CLiXfueling.com. It's CLiX Fueling.com. You can also search CLiX Fueling on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and everywhere else you could imagine, and we should populate up at the top of the screen for you.
Yep. We also have our own website. Obviously, Steven just mentioned it, but we're on, if you're a boater, we're on Boat Outfitters, which is a website which carries our product. We are on eBay, which is interesting. We just opened up a little eBay store, so you could find us there. And if you have any questions about what we are doing, you're more than welcome, yourself or any of your engineers or boater friends, to send us a message through the website, and we'll be happy to speak with them at any time. It's our pleasure.
And we're also we're also recommended or sanctioned or whatever you want to call it through the Boater Safe U.S. Boat Safe Councils. How's that put, Howard?
National Safe Boating Council of the United States. We are a recommended product for safety and environmental concerns. We also donate 5% of all of our proceeds to help maintain the oceans in an ecological fashion. Most of the money goes to the Marine Mammal Center, which is in California, which is one of the largest in the world centers for marine mammal. It's like a hospital for them and research for them, and they also do a lot of stuff for the oceans and the cleaning up of the oceans. So we support them.
Wonderful, wonderful. That's really fantastic. So, Howard, Steven, it's been a really interesting and insightful conversation with the both of you, and I'm totally excited to have you guys on the show today.
Thank you very much. It was wonderful meeting you. It's excellent. Thank you so much.